real talk woman, Minerva boss. Hey, my flower, yeah. My flower. It's so power. We want change. We want change. We need change. Why the ones? It's so power. Machine. It's so power. Grand Rivière. Corinth. It's so power. Tout le monde. Chaque Brésilien. It's so power. Minerva c'est boss. Minerva qui boss. Minerva.
Let's play that again. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you. Share the live, share the live. And while you share the live, we're going to play my theme song for Grosley. Thank you to my writer. Thank you to my song producer, this beautiful lady. I'm not sure she wants me to mention her name, but thank you. I'd never met her, didn't ask for a song, but she fell in love with me and decided to produce her song for me. So let's listen again. Please share the live.
My flower, yeah. My flower. It's so power. We want change. We want change. We need change. Oh, Madame Bella qui baisse, c'est elle. Real radical, ouais, il spécial. Comme si projet qui fait pas nous. Pour ouvrir ce nous, yes, and tell us the truth. Real top girl, yes, we rating you. 10 out of 10, we like your point of view. Oh, say of us and we love you, of course. Real top woman, Minerva boss. Hey, my flower, yeah. My flower. It's so power. We want change. We want change. We need change. Why the ones? It's so power. Machine. It's so power. Grand Rivière. Corinth. It's so power. Tout le monde. Chaque Brésilien. It's so power. Minerva c'est boss.
That's right.
Minerva qui boss. Minerva.
Good night, St.Lucia. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Monday night to join me. Thank you for all the love I see in the chat. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's been a while since I've been here. Folks, I had surgery and I want to thank you all for all of your thoughts, all of your healing wishes, all of your prayers. I thank you so much for all the love I received. I truly, truly, truly appreciate all of your thoughts. It was not serious. It was not life-threatening or anything. It's a surgery, a routine surgery that a lot of women have to go through. And you know what? When I was going through that surgery, but I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you all. I want to thank you all for the outpouring of love. And I want to say a special thank you to my neighbor, Barbara Taylor. Barbara Taylor is a St. Lucian. We went to St. Joseph's Convent together, worked at Sandals together. Barbara lives close to me, 5 minutes away, and her father, Winston Taylor, passed away this Sunday, along with Conrad James of Dr. Freezers. So there are two. Winston Taylor was a deacon in the Grosley Catholic Church. Connie James, as people would know him, the owner of Dr. Freezers, also passed away on Sunday morning. So two pillars and two stalwarts in the Grosley constituency. So I want to say condolences to the entire James family, Debbie, the wife of Darren James, Nishette, Mark, all of his children. I want to say a special send my condolences to the family of Winston Taylor, Barbara Taylor, who took extremely good care of me while I was recovering from surgery. My neighbor here in Canada, Roston Taylor, Georges Taylor. Thank you so much, Baldwin Taylor. Thank you so much, Barbara, and my sincere condolences on the death of your father, Winston Taylor. So I had surgery a few weeks ago, and I appreciate all the love and the outpouring of support and healing wishes. But while I was going through the process of preparing for surgery and through the surgery, my mind was on St. Lucia. My mind was on St. Lucia. I remember going through the process of pre-op, as they call it. Basically, all the testing and all the preparation you go through for pre-op. And I remember meeting with the surgical team at the hospital in Hamilton here in Ontario. And I had about 5 departments to go to do testing and stuff just before the surgery. So they had to prepare me for surgery. And everything was in the same building. They told me, after you leave out here, go here, turn here, everything, all 5 departments I had to go to. It was literally in the same building. I didn't have to go outside. I didn't have to walk to a number 2 chicken coop, go to a number 10 chicken coop, go to another 15 chicken coop. Everything was literally in the same box. Everything, every single department I needed for my pre-op and with my surgery, everything I needed, every single department, every service I needed to access for my pre-op, for my surgery, and for my surgery were in the same box. I actually tried to take a video for you guys. I thought I pressed the video button, but I didn't. Everything literally was housed within one box. Because folks, in the real world, in the outside world, where engineering and technology is at its finest, people understand that hospitals are housed within one structure. And they are usually shaped as a box or rectangle. When I hear St. Lucians, when I hear this government, this retarded government, talking this asinine garbage to try to diminish the brand new state-of-the-art St. Jude's Hospital and try to diminish its worthiness and its worth and paint it as the box, as if that's supposed to diminish it. I feel disgusted. I feel icky. A country that has produced 2 Nobel laureates, to hear a government talking that nonsense and to hear it repeated by St. Lucians who should have a standard and iota of intelligence. I feel disgusted. I feel icky. Hospitals have a shape. They're not a triangle. They're not a circle. They're not a pentagon. They're not a hexagon. They are generally shaped as boxes, as squares, or rectangles. That is how hospitals are built in the real world. They are not built as multiple chicken coops that you have to go out to that one, jump that to that one, go out. It makes no sense. Not only is it not good for the purposes of utilities and energy, for cooling. Well, in St. Lucia, we don't have heating. Cooling, but in the real world, heating, ease of access, and so on. Not only does it make practical sense for that, but these are how hospitals are built. I am not sure why in this government's mind that they think a hospital is supposed to be like a little cabaret villas, 26 little cabaret villas. So you have to go out if it's raining, if it's pouring, whatever the conditions you in. If you in a robe that tied the back and all the bam out, you have to walk out to the next wing. You have to walk out to that one. If you're in a wheelchair, somebody has to push you. I am not sure what this government is thinking. But in the real world, now I know Philip Pierre said he never knew an airport is built on two levels. I know he said for a government that it never misses an opportunity to be on a plane, to be traveling. I am not sure how they are so oblivious to what happens in the real world. But in the real world, airports have multiple floors and hospitals are usually built in the shape of a square or a rectangle. Just as our state-of-the-art hospital in St. Jude's, the one you guys stopped. Now, let me read some of the comments as I go along. Yes, hospitals are normally built in a shape. They must have a shape. They must have a shape. So what you're gonna? So let's say it was built as a circle. You're gonna say it was a circle, so it's useless. Hospitals are built like boxes and rectangles. Y'all never miss an opportunity to be on a plane, traveling everywhere. Don't y'all know that hospitals are built like rectangles? That does not diminish the hospital. Alan Shastney was building a brand new state-of-the-art world-class hospital. And when I hear you guys talking nonsense about, oh, it was flooding, it was not finished. Oh, it's empty inside. Of course, it is not finished. When I hear St. Lucians repeating that ignorance, it is not finished. Richard Frederick, you finally have a chance to travel to the US. You finally have a chance to travel to the US on a diplomatic visa, even if it's for your personal business you want to go and do there. Go see what hospitals look like in the US. So when I saw that during my surgery, I didn't need to actually explain that, because any person who has left, who has traveled, will not repeat that garbage because it makes you sound ignorant. But I wanted St. Lucians to see it for themselves. And the other thought that crossed my mind while I was going through all of this, I was able to go through an entire surgery, an entire process, multiple tests, ultrasounds, all kinds of tests, all kinds of something, and not pay a single cent. And not pay a single cent. I don't say this to brag. I actually felt sorry for St. Lucians. Because here you had Alan Shastney. Here you had Alan Shastney, who was well on his way, to giving every single St. Lucian $75,000 worth of medical insurance every single year. Yes, you would have to pay into it, just like you pay into NIC. So yes, a portion of your salary would have to go to paying medical insurance, because it is not free. The services I enjoy, I pay for it through taxes. So yes, you would have to pay a small amount every single month. But when you fall sick, God forbid that you have $75,000 worth of health care available to you every single year. And St. Lucians left that behind. St. Lucians left that behind to vote for a set of people who only a few are benefiting. Only a few are getting placed at all diplomatic things, all different consulates. Only a few are drinking the champagne. Only a few are living high off the hog. A set that could not do it before, and they will not be able to do it after. You are left insurance of $75,000 worth every single year to vote for a government who does not care about you and who has proven they do not care about you. And only a select few of the elite, the small elitist circle, are living high off the hog. It hurt my heart when I went through surgery to see that. It hurt my heart. People who are the poor, the vulnerable, the elderly would not have to pay for that, because as the beauty of insurance, is that the collective pays. So those of us who are working, we pay into the collective. We pay into the insurance fund, the fund. So it benefits the few that are not working. They are elderly, they are retired, they don't have an income. The single mothers who don't have a job, not just a single mother, but those who can't afford to pay. We all pay into that fund, and that's the way you help the most vulnerable in the society. When I see people still walking around cashews with raffle sheets in their hand, When I see GoFundMe links that barely have any money on it, when I see people having to go and do bake sale to pay for medical fees, when I see young children going through cancer treatment, when I see people who, in addition to having to battle cancer, they have to figure out how to raise the funds for that cancer, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. When you are sick, you are in a vulnerable position. You should not have to worry about how your medical bill is going to be paid. That is not what you need to be worried about at the time when you are fighting for your life. It broke my heart laying on my hospital bed to know that St. Lucians are going through this. Thank God I have a government that has put in place provisions for healthcare. Yes, we pay into it. Yes, we pay taxes. But I know if I'm ever in a vulnerable position, I don't have to worry about those things. When I think about the cost of an ultrasound in St. Lucia, I had to do multiple ultrasounds along the route to get to surgery. I had to do multiple sets of testings to get to the route to surgery. And I didn't have to pay a single cent. That is what healthcare insurance is. Healthcare insurance is not waiting till you pass your life expectancy of 73 in St. Lucia and reach to 80. How many St. Lucians are reaching to 80? You have to reach 80, and if God give you a chance to live, if you don't die before 80, then alone you can access healthcare. And you have a government who says they care, who are boasting about that. That is not universal healthcare. And Philippines, you should be ashamed of yourself. You have to reach to 80 years to be able to access free healthcare. So what happened to you between the period of 65 when you retire and 80 years? What happens to you there? What happens if, God forbid, you get sick at 75? How many people reach to the age of 80? And this is the government who cares? This is the government who cares, who says they care? How is that care? We've left an insurance program well organized, well put together, almost at the point of completion, ready to roll out. I am telling you, St. Lucians, I am telling you that if Alan Chasney was in power today, that program would have already been implemented. If Alan Chasney and the UWP government was in power today, that program would have already been implemented. And you know what else would have happened at this time? 2 years in, over 2 years in, Hiranora Airport would be well underway. No, it would not be finished because Hiranora is a major project. The plans Alan Chasney had for Hiranora was a major project. It would not be finished, but it would be well underway because the piling was already done before he left office. But you know what have been done? You know what would have been done? You know what have been completed? Our world-class, state-of-the-art St. Jude's. There would be nobody laying in a cot at the sports stadium in Vieux-Fort. St. Lucians, Vieux-Fortians, people of the South, would be in our brand new state-of-the-art hospital. Our brand new state-of-the-art St. Jude's. That's where we would have been. But no. St. Lucians believed the innuendo, the lies, got confused by the Labour Party, the selfish, self-serving agendas of a government, of a Labour Party that never had a plan for St. Lucians, that never had a plan, that never had a vision for St. Lucians. They believed the rhetoric. They believed the lies and the innuendo. They believe the unsubstantiated, the baseless, the unfounded allegations of corruption. 2 years plus in, we have not seen a shred of evidence on any of that corruption. And now the government is desperate. Now this government is desperate. Now this government is desperate because people have finally opened their eyes to the lies the Labour Party told to win the election. People are now realizing that they were duped. And for the first year and a half, people were suffering in silence, too ashamed to open their mouth. and admit they were fooled. Because none of us like to admit we were fooled. None of us. But people are now finally opening their mouths to admit that they were fooled. They were conned by the Labour Party. People are finally opening their mouths. And what is irritating St. Lucians even more is that this government continues to try to perpetuate a con on St. Lucians. Because you see, they believe, and I'm telling you, and I keep trying to St. Lucians, when I come to speak to you, I have been in the belly of the Labour Party. I have been in the belly of the Labour Party, and I know their tactics. I know your tactics, the Labour Party. I have been schooled in your tactics. I know your tactics like the back of my hand. I know your tactics because I have been schooled in your tactics. I keep trying to tell you. The same tactics and the same strategies that won them the election by confusing St. Lucians, by creating a state of unrest, unease, a state of discontent, a state of being unsettled and restless, especially during COVID. That is the same strategy they try to use. The same tactics of a man who went on his show every Thursday and convinced the electorate that there was corruption. Jit toujours. Up to now, we have not seen it. You're there for 2 years. You're not tired of insulting the intelligence of St. Lucians? And the Labour Party throw out innuendo. Throw out innuendo. Throw it out. They have no proof, but they throw it out. Yes, Richard Fredericks have mastered that. Ernest is another one. He threw out something in the parliament. But I will come back to that. He dropped something there and leave it for people to speculate because they know St. Lucian so well. They know how to play y'all so well. They throw it out there and they know exactly what you're going to do with it. The same thing the ignorant Labour's running around with. Panama, the money in Panama. Do you all know how stupid you sound? It's the same thing. They run. Pajoa letter. Explain the Pajoa letter. They can't explain to you. Guy Joseph corrupt. How is Guy Joseph corrupt? Explain to me, how is Guy Joseph corrupt? I don't know, but I just believe he's corrupt. Typical Labour Party tactics. Typical. Repeat something 1,000,000 times and it will stick. They know that most St. Lucians can't even understand the technicalities of what they're saying. They don't even bother the technicalities. They just throw something out. And Richard Frederick come on Thursday. Oh, my God. This is ridiculous. Richard Frederick. My God. And they know both St. Lucians going to run with it. Pajoa letter. Panama. And what is a shame and pathetic is that people who are supposed to know better, people like Dr. Honorary, what she get a PhD in? Is that an honorary PhD? Did she actually go to school for that PhD? Did you get in a Cracker Jack's box? Because I am appalled at this Senator Alison Jean. I am appalled. And to stand up in the House, Panama, lady, say something that shows you have a PhD. Because right now you're making all PhDs look ridiculous. So they throw it out and they leave it to speculate. And I will come to that. Yes, and I started firing on all cylinders because I have not been here a while. And I am sick and fed up of what's going on in my country. I am sick and fed up with what is going on in my country. And the same tactics the Labour Party used to win the last election of confusing St. Lucia's lying, throwing enough garbage out there that they know you so well. The majority are going to just stick and run like chickens. When I was growing up, my grandmother had chickens. And we'd either throw rice for them or she'd cut up coconut, like the dry coconut, and we'd throw for them. And they'd all come running. And then run with whatever they got. They know St. Lucians are like that. A lot of St. Lucians are like that. They know that. So they throw some corn out. They throw some corn. And they know St. Lucians going to come and run and ask them where is the corruption in that? They cannot answer. They cannot answer. But they know just putting it out there, Panama, is enough to have them confused. Because they understand the psyche of St. Lucians. You see, the Labour Party understands that they have no ideas. They have no vision. They understand they don't have the talent. They don't have the skills. They understand that very well. They don't have what it takes. But they understand if they confuse St. Lucians enough, they can remain in power. They understand that all it takes is a perception of corruption. And corruption is the easiest thing to create a perception of. Corruption doesn't have to be a reality, you know. It does not have to be a reality. It doesn't have to be based in fact. It doesn't have to be proven. All you have to do is to create the perception of it. And St. Lucians will run with it. And that's what they did. And the Labour Party is expecting to do the same thing to remain in office. All they have to do. So Alan Chastanet, they created this image of a man whose father has invested more than any other St. Lucian. A man whose father has invested more than any other St. Lucian towards the development of St. Lucia, Alan Chastanet. They created a vision of Alan Chastanet as a foreign white man who is unrelatable to the ordinary St. Lucian. And that fooled you. You were fooled. A man, Michael Chastanet, who opened supermarkets, the supermarkets, the first malls you'll ever see in St. Lucia, theaters, all kinds of business that employed thousands of St. Lucians, catamarans, hotels. The St. Lucian who invested the most in our country. If you call John Compton the father of the nation, Michael Chastanet deserves to be called the godfather of the nation. His son. Instead, you'll understand. But wait, Alan Chastanet grew up in St. Lucia. Yes, just like a lot of St. Lucian kids. He school overseas, came back, went back. My nephew is going back and forth to school overseas and back to St. Lucia. He's on St. Lucia's national swim team. Does that make him not St. Lucian? But you're allowed this Labour Party to create this narrative of Alan Chastanet, this foreign white man. You forgot the contributions his dad and his family and him. And he made to St. Lucia. Look at his father. Alan Chastanet was the director of tourism. Alan Chastanet ran his own hotel in St. Lucia. I remember being at tourism school. I went to UE, Center for Hotel and Tourism Management in the Bahamas. Alan Chastanet's name was very much featured in the discourse when we did our tourism studies. There were some names, him, Michelle Page, and a few others. His name was very much about within the tourism vernacular of my bachelor's degree in tourism at UE in the Bahamas. You'll forget the contributions he made. And when I hear Alan Chastanet tell his story about being captain of the basketball team, the national basketball team, about helping his father on the dock when he came back at Fuller Show every summer. You'll forget he was the one who started the jazz festival. You'll forget he was a director of tourism. When I hear his story about being a young economist working with Clem Bob in Soufrière, when you hear his story about selling T-shirts with the national basketball team to raise funds, but you allow the Labour Party to fool you and believe he's a foreign white man. Paint this picture of Alan Chastanet, this foreign white man. Yeah, and you had an ignorant St. Lucians. St. Lucia's a black country. We don't want no white man. We want a black prime minister. The most nonsensical, ignorant. That's the lowest of lows in our society. Paint a picture of corruption of guidance, and up to now, they have not been able to prove it. Anybody that is on the European side, that is a thing in their behind, they paint a picture. Minerva is promiscuous. Minerva is a whore. Minerva has been with all men in St. Lucia. Minerva has been with the whole cabinet. Minerva is promiscuous. Because they have to diminish you. They have to diminish you. They have to demean you. That is what the Labour Party does. And so sad that some UWPs allow it to sink into the narrative. But that's what happened in the last election. We believe the lies the Labour Party told us. We believe the lies the Labour Party told us about our own people. I came to St. Lucia in 2021 for the election and speaking to people. Guy Joseph corrupt. We need to get rid of Guy Joseph. Corrupt how? Explain to me. I said, I have no tolerance for corruption. I have none. Explain to me, how is he corrupt? I don't know, but he's corrupt. Labour Party did a thing on y'all. And they're doing it again. They are doing it again. They are doing it again. Or should I say, they are attempting to do it again. They are attempting to do it again because they understand the psyche of St. Lucians. So the same tactics that worked in the last election, we are trying it again. But, there's a but. There is a but. But St. Lucians are sick and fed up of this government. St. Lucians are sick and fed up and tired of this government. St. Lucians are sick and fed up and intolerant. They have no patience. St. Lucians have tuned this government out. St. Lucians have tuned this government out. And the attempts at trying this stupid tactic of throwing things out and hoping it stick and hoping that the little chickens run with it, the little fowls, the little hens run with it. St. Lucians have seen through it and they are disgusted because 2 years in, they realize nothing is running in the country. They realize things hard as hell in the country. They realize all the crap they talked about the election, nothing has been proven. Nothing. They have not been able to prove a straight up evidence against Guy Joseph. The so-called special prosecutor, which they think, because, we're going to hire a special prosecutor. A political show. A political show. Nothing but a political show. We're going to hire a special prosecutor. It has not been done. It's probably in the pipeline. But I hope the pit y'all think y'all digging for the people, y'all are the first ones to fall in it because your hands are not clean. Because your hands are not clean. Your hands are not clean. So the special prosecutor charade. It's a charade. It's a charade. It is nothing but a charade. St. Lucians are sick and fed up with the political grandstanding, the political theatrics while they catch their ass. They are sick and fed up of it while they catch their ass. They can't put food on the table, but you'll come out to some nonsense about Panama to deflect. They cannot put food on the table, but you'll come out with some nonsense about Panama to deflect. And Kenny Anthony. And I'm going to play some tapes for you. Kenny Anthony, you should be ashamed of yourself. Kenny Anthony, you should be ashamed of yourself. As a man, a former prime minister, who is in the twilight of your life. I don't know. I'm not God. I don't know who's going next. It might be me. I don't know. But you are in the twilight of your life. This is a time for you to make peace with your conscience. This is a time for you to make peace with your constituency. This is the time for you to make peace with the people you wronged, and you've wronged a lot of them. This is the time for you to make your wrong right. This is the time for you to apologize to St. Lucians and be contrite. This is the time for you to be contrite in your behavior and your words and measured in your words. Kenny Anthony, This is the time for you to take stock of where your constituency, Beaufort South, finds itself 27 years into your term in office. This year, Beaufort, for the first time in St. Lucia, had to be on lockdown. Schools cannot open. People had to be sheltering in their homes. Gang warfare. And you know why? Because you have not done diddly squat in Beaufort South. Because you have not done diddly squat. Kenny Anthony, you should be ashamed of yourself. Kenny Anthony, you should be ashamed of yourself. Your legacy in Beaufort South is pathetic. Kenny Anthony, your legacy in Beaufort South is pathetic, and history will not be kind to you. When the annals of history are written, it will not be kind to you, because you, as Prime Minister, had an opportunity, a prime opportunity, to really develop Beaufort South. But instead, you have left a legacy of poverty, of slums, of gang violence, a murder rate that is sky high, of children growing up without parents and grandparents, of slums, of unregulated housing, of no development in your 27 years in office. That is your legacy. And instead of you trying to right your wrongs, you are busy standing up in the house talking nonsense and throwing corn. I leave that for the dregs like Richard Frederick. I leave that for the somewhats like Ernest Hilley. Not you. At this stage of your life, you should be a statesman with statesman-like behavior. I am disappointed in you. And like Ricky Wayne said, this is probably your worst performance in the house. You should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. But to deflect away from your legacy, you know, honestly, if I was a parliamentary rep for 27 years, with most of the people who are involved in that gang war we had this year, we had to call the RSS in, we had to create special legislation, where schools had to be shut down, business had to be shut down, where we earned ourselves a reputation all over the world of gang war. If I was the 27-term parliamentarian or year parliamentarian to preside over that, I would be crawling into a hole and trying in my last years of my term to right my wrongs and do what I do for people of Beaufort South. But instead, you're busy in Parliament talking nonsense, cheap politics, playing the role of somewhat Richard Frederick and somewhat Ernest Hilley. Leave that for the dregs of the Labour Party. I don't expect that from you. Leave that in the bottom of the barrel of the Labour Party, Richard Frederick and Ernest Hilley. I don't expect that from you. Do you not understand? You came in 97 on a 16-1 mandate. There were people like you. People like me. The first time I voted in 97, when I was 18 years old, and so many others, we looked up to you. We looked up to you for a level of reverence, a level of, we think this person is going to come and do great things in our country. Don't you understand the respect and regard St. Lucians had for you? To come and throw that away in your twilight years? Again, I may go before you, but it's your final years in your term. And to stand up in the house and talk that unsubstantiated nonsense, Kenny Anthony, on the year that your constituency has been a hot mess. You should be ashamed of yourself, Kenny Anthony. I'm going to come to that Panama thing, but I want to play parts of Philip Pierre's interview with St.Lucia on HDS. I want to play some of that for you. I want to play it. I'm going to dissect it. Because you and I have to make sense of the nonsense we have to hear. We've had to suffer through our Prime Minister. I am going to play it for you, and we're going to break it down together.
My mind is felt a lot lighter. But there was COVID and there was the double whammy of the war in Ukraine and COVID, and then came the big word, inflation.
Okay, we'll
The
get to
spike
that.
in the price of goods and services.
Yes, we'll get to that. But let's touch on it.
So COVID was not a big word. Inflation is a big word. So 3 years the world was basically shut down was not a big word. Inflation is a big word, according to your Prime Minister, Philip Pierre.
And you see there's a renewed sense of, hey, I can do my duty
Yes.
without any fear of, yes, undue political interference. And we saw some changes that surprised many people at the helm of the St.Lucia Police Force. We saw the recall, if you like, of the Commissioner, Mrs. Vesta Perez. What drove that?
First of all, Mrs. Perez had been Commissioner of Police, I think, not even a year. People, when you make comparisons, it's very, it's sad that we've got the politics that entered all these things. Perez was Commissioner of Police not even a year. Daisy was Commissioner of Police for a time before that.
So Philip Pierre chastised Alan Shastney for bringing back Daisy from retirement. He did the same thing with Peleus, but he's trying to justify it now. Talking about Peleus was only there for a year, but Daisy was there for some time before that. You see the hypocrisy of the Labour Party? Guys, when Philip Pierre and these guys speak, you need to analyze every word they say, because they take solutions for clowns. They take solutions for clowns. Analyze the sense, the nonsense and the sense they're talking. Big sense of nonsense. He chastised Alan Shastney for bringing back Daisy. He was brought back Peleus, but he's trying to justify it now.
The comparison is not. Secondly, there were two deputy commissioners for this. One of them, in fact, both of them had been under some level of scrutiny, if you recall. One of them is actually.
Listen to this. So he's saying that there were two deputy commissioners. Both of them under some level of scrutiny. Listen to this carefully. I'm going to analyze it for you. Listen to it.
One of them, in fact, both of them had been under some level of scrutiny.
Listen to this.
If you recall. One of them is actually involved in a court matter with Christopher Hunt. I don't know if you recall that. People seem to just.
So listen to this. Listen to the audacity of what Philip Pierre says. So he's trying to say that there were two deputy commissioners of police. So Peleus was the commissioner, and there were two deputies. One was what's his name? The one with the sexual assault allegations against him. I forgot his name. Philip, whatever his name is. The other one, he's saying, was involved with something with Christopher Hunt. Folks, do you remember during the COVID lockdowns when every single country in the world enacted legislation under their various states of emergency to keep people safe? So if you come into Canada, you have to isolate either at a COVID hotel or an authorized place. And if you breach that, you are liable for jail or for charges. Every single country in the world created special legislation because if you have to trust people to do what's right, they would not do it. And we saw it during COVID. We know it. It's not just in St.Lucia, it's all over the world. You expect people to do what's right and to follow the rules, they don't. So we had to enforce legislation. We said no mass gatherings. We said no motorcades. We said no mass gatherings. Christopher Hunt and Richard Frederick go and organize their motorcade. The police come and talk to Richard Frederick and said, go home. He went home. Christopher Hunt, they're telling people, don't say it on a loudspeaker. You go there, we will meet you there, and we'll go around the island and we'll just do our thing. Do y'all remember that? Do you remember that? Do you remember he was arrested by the police? Do you remember he was legitimately arrested for breaching the COVID laws? Legitimately. This government came in and they expunged all the records, all the COVID breaches, they dismissed the charges. All. Anybody was charged for breaching the COVID rules, done. And that is why this government has appeared soft on crime. That is why people think that they can get away with anything in this government. Anyway, so the charges against Christopher Hunt and everybody else was dropped. Christopher Hunt now goes and sues the government, files a lawsuit against the government. This SLP government comes in. You know what they have done? You know what they have done? They have said, we don't want the matter to go to court. We're going to settle with Christopher Hunt. They're going to settle the civil matter, the lawsuit with Christopher Hunt, and trust and believe Christopher Hunt is going to get a good payout. So a police officer, a senior police officer, a deputy police commissioner cannot ascend to the post of police commissioner because according to the prime minister, he has an issue with Christopher Hunt. So all police officers who ever arrested anybody is not an issue. But because it's a Labour Party hack, because it's Christopher Hunt, because he has an outstanding matter for legitimate arrest of Christopher Hunt, he cannot ascend to the post of police commissioner. Listen to your prime minister.
If you recall, one of them is actually involved in a court matter with Christopher Hunt. I don't know if you recall that. You know, people seem to just conveniently forget these things. So one of them is a court matter with Christopher Hunt, right? The other one was under, he was being accused by the Welfare Association of the Police, by the UWP, by the UWP and the Welfare Association in the May. I must say, it's only these people who led that attack. So you have two.
Listen to this again. Listen to this again. So a police commissioner, acting police commissioner, Philip, is being accused by multiple women, in my understanding 5 or 6 women, of sexual assault and sexual harassment on the job. This prime minister says he's only been accused by the Police Welfare Association and the UWP. This prime minister. So he is downplaying and minimizing the significance of the cloud that's hanging over his head. And the allegations, not allegations, accusations of sexual assault and sexual harassment. He's minimizing the significance of it by dismissing it as only the Police Welfare Association and the UWP. Listen again. Folks, I'm going to get to the Panama thing, but there are some things I need to get through. That interview with Stanley was mind-boggling. Now, I know the Prime Minister is mind-boggling every time he speaks, but we need to debunk and dissect and rubbish the rubbish he speaks.
By the Welfare Association of the Police, by the UWP, by the UWP and the Welfare Association in the May. And I must say, in a court matter with Christopher Hunt. I don't know if you recall that. You know, people seem to just conveniently forget these things. So one of them is a court matter with Christopher Hunt, right? The other one was under, he was being accused by the Welfare Association of the Police, by the UWP, by the UWP and the Welfare Association in the May. And I must say, it's only these people who led that attack. So you have 2 deputy commissioners. Now, what do I do? We believe that St.Lucians are capable to run the police force and capable to run the affairs of this country. Peleus had been, and I read an article on the Loop this morning, which is very strange actually. Peleus had been commissioner for about 9 months or so, from October. She turned 55. Now, in the meantime, what was significant, and people still seem to remember that, we sent Peleus on leave. Peleus is odd for 2 months. You know, there are differences between the two. Peleus went on the Peleus left.
Pre-retirement.
Pre-retirement. No. Peleus left on pre-retirement leave.
Yes.
She left. She physically left the force.
Yeah.
She
What is he saying? Can somebody understand what is he saying? I'm lost. She went on pre-retirement leave? She left the force. You're saying no on leave. What exactly is he saying? Somebody, if you understand what he's saying, somebody says the man can never finish a sentence. Somebody please explain to me what I'm lost. Did she go on pre-retirement leave? Did she retire? Did she walk out of the job? Did she go on vacation? What is he saying?
She handed over the something to us to remember that. We sent Peleus on leave. Peleus is odd for 2 months. You know, there are differences between the two. Peleus and Peleus left.
Pre-retirement.
Pre-retirement. No. Peleus left on pre-retirement leave.
Yes.
She left. She physically left the force.
Yeah.
She handed it over to somebody. She didn't just follow. It wasn't a transition from Pele's retirement to Pele's being the commissioner. That's that's a difference. But it's a very important difference. There was time for somebody else to go in. That's a difference that we must remember. So Pele's, when she left.
What is he saying?
Philip became acting commissioner, not my godson. And his second name is Philip. Ronald Philip, not my godson. Not my godson.
But have you guys been close? I mean,
not really. Philip is younger than me. Philip, most of the promotion Philip got was under the UWP.
Of what relevance is that? Of what relevance is that?
Philip is about 44 years old. Philip has a master's degree. He has an honors. Philip has a first degree. Philip is one of the most promising young policemen in the country.
Of what relevance is that? Of what relevance is that? There were sexual assault allegations over accusations over his head. Of what relevance is his master's PhD professor? Of what relevance is that?
But no one can he said there's Philip, there's Thomas, there's Charlie, who was there before. There's Philip, Thomas, Charlie, there's Gaston. There's a very promising, there's Dr. C. There's that, so we just, for our own reasons, we blow this thing out of the world. These are young, promising policemen. Philip is 47 years of age. Charlie, I think, is 50. You understand? So these are, Thomas is 30-something. You understand? So they are very young, promising policemen in the police force. But at the time, we thought that, listen to me, there's Philip and there's Charlie. Both of them, there's some level well, I don't use the word crowd. There's some discussion around them. So he said, listen, let's settle that. Let us allow Penius to return.
There's some discussion around him. There is some discussion around him. Now, folks, let me tell you this. I'm going to set this up for you because I want you to listen to what a prime minister is saying. I want you to listen to what a prime minister is saying. Folks, everything this prime minister has said, both in this interview and other statements he's made regarding the sexual assault accusations, not allegations, accusations against Philip. What's his last name? I forgot his name. The guy was acting police commissioner. Everything he has said on this interview, everything, all of his other ministers, all of them, Richard Frederick, all of them have said was in defense of this guy. So they are defending him without any level of investigation. How then? They have never indicated in their speech, in their words, in their behavior, in their manner, in their actions, anything of protection of the women, the 5 or 6 women who are making the accusation of sexual assault. They have never indicated any level of protection around them. Nothing. These women are left exposed. They are left vulnerable. They are left to the wolves. And we have to remember there are power dynamics at play here. Here you have a man who's police commissioner, who's acting police commissioner. He has the power of the force behind him. He has the power of government behind him. He has the power of the prime minister and all their bullies like Richard Frederick behind him. He has that power behind him. He has the words of a prime minister who's elevating him and was not offered an iota of empathy, of support, of protection, of understanding that these women are vulnerable. They have offered none of that. None of that. Instead, what they have done is to downplay and minimize whatever these women have been through, with no understanding that these women are vulnerable, with no understanding that a rape victim, that a woman who has been sexually assaulted, who's been raped, who's been sexually harassed, are vulnerable. First of all, they don't want to come forward because they are going to be exposed. Their name is going to be dragged through the mud. It is my understanding that some of these women are already being targeted by friends of this guy who are calling them whore and slut. Because we know we like to do that in the St. Lucian society. We like to slut shame. We like to paint women out as promiscuous. We like to take a woman and make a sexuality, whatever, real, invented, perceived, whatever, created, whatever it is, we want to use it and drag her down. And we also know that usually the women who are the victims of rape, of sexual assault, of sexual harassment, all of these things are normally the most vulnerable women who are not necessarily strong to stand up for themselves, who don't normally have backa to stand with them. So these women are vulnerable. You think these women are going to step forward and go into this lion's den? You have this guy. You have all his peers. You have a prime minister. You have a minister. You have these ministers of government like sharks circling, waiting for these 5 women to step forward, for them to dare put their name out there, for them to attack and eat them. Then you're going to hear all the men they slept with from the time they were 10 years old. You're going to hear all the men their mother slept with from the time she was 5 years old. You're going to hear all what their sister do, their nene do, their auntie, their grandmother do. We know that in St. Lucian society, these women have not been offered an ounce of protection. But we are busy protecting the man. We are busy building him up. He has a master's degree. He has this. He has that. He has...
Used to return for 1 year. Settle. And then take a decision on the new commissioner. That's all.
Okay. So is there the possibility that Philip will be part of the future of...
Philip, once he's cleared.
What does that mean? How is he going to be cleared?
Because we've asked welfare association, if you have anything against Philip, ready to go. Don't leave the young man's life in a cloud. Don't have the man's life on accusation.
Philip Pierre, Prime Minister, open an independent investigation. The response is to open an independent investigation and investigate genuinely the accusations of sexual assault and sexual harassment. Don't come and say, if the Police Welfare Association have things, bring their names forward. That's not how it works. Investigate independently. Bring police officers, bring 2 or 3 investigators from overseas and investigate. Investigate independently.
You understand? If you have anything on him, bring it forward.
And what will happen from there?
I can't see. I don't know. I can't predict what will happen. I can't.
But is there a system in place to say if a serious accusation is raised, if a credible accusation is raised against a senior police officer? You spoke about the
system. There can do 2 things. It can be criminal, or the police can decide to take disciplinary procedure.
So is there a system within the police force to facilitate that?
Of course. There is the orderly room, but I'm not sure at its rank. But there's a system, where it's very tough to see. But when these accusations are made against somebody, anybody can do it. Right? Now, what you have to do, you don't want to say. So you either go criminal, then you go to the police station. Philip J. Pierre assaulted me. Criminal. Or you try to do it procedural. But none of the victims have written anything in their own handwriting to anybody.
Philip Pierre, if your daughter, because you have a daughter, you like to boast about that one daughter you have. That's not one daughter. Your one daughter. If she was sexually assaulted, or God forbid raped, I don't wish on anybody, but today I want you to put yourselves in the shoes of the people. If she was assaulted, if she was sexually assaulted, would that be your response?
Or you try to do it procedural. But none of the victims have written anything in their own handwriting to anybody.
So the thing now is that they have to write it in their own handwriting. So I have to write it in my own handwriting. Minerva Ward was assaulted by You say Prime Minister is too stupid. So the women have to write it in their own handwriting for it to be legitimate. Investigate. Get independent investigators and investigate. This is too serious a matter to be swept under the rug. 5 women accusing a police commissioner of sexual assault, and you are going to diminish their legitimate concerns and claims?
Nobody has come forward. Nobody has come forward and said it happened to me. No one has done it. It's just third parties get involved. And I can't cast judgment on that. I don't know. No one has come forward to say Jean Jones said so. Or Jean said, yes, that happened to you. So what you have is that you have a very promising young policeman.
Listen to this. Listen to this. Listen to this. So his concern is not for the 5 women or 6. His concerns are not to investigate to see if they have a true and legitimate claim. His concerns are not for their well-being. 5 or 6 women, not 1, not 2, 5 or 6 women who have come forward to say a senior police officer who was given a role as acting police commissioner has sexually assaulted them. And this is the Prime Minister's response.
Very, very promising. He have his life in abeyance on accusations. That can't be right.
Okay. Now,
so he's worried about the life of Philip. He's not worried about the lives of these 5 or 6 women. He's not worried about their well-being. He's not worried about the accusations of sexual assault. Where are the women? Where is Alison Jean? Where is Catherine Seals? Y'all went to Parliament. Y'all put on your tuxedo. Y'all put on your chapeau. Y'all put on your lipstick. Y'all put on your dandan. Y'all go to Parliament boasting about your past domestic violence legislation. Where are y'all? Where are y'all to speak for these women? Where are y'all? Lisa Joari, you like to come. You like to come. Where are you, Lisa Joari? Where are you?
Very, very promising. He have his life in.
Yes, 1 man is worth more to him than 5 or 6 women. One man and his master's degree and his promising is worth more to him than the sexual assault and the lives that have been ruined of 5 or 6 women. That's a Prime Minister.
Abeyance on accusations. That can't be right.
Okay. Now let's look at the factors within the police force. You've invested a tremendous amount of St. Lucia's resources in the police force. We saw vehicles, and a number of other things. What about the accountability part of it? So in other words, I have given you those additional resources. Is there a way of measuring that performance to see whether that has made a difference to the way you respond to situations on the ground and how the people feel about the sort of service that you're granting, given?
When was the last time you saw on television people complain about the police harassing them and harassing? We don't know. There's that. The sad thing is that.
Do you think that would have made that difference?
So the Prime Minister's measure of how well he's doing on the crime file. Let's go back and listen to this.
Performance to see whether that has made a difference to the way you respond to situations on the ground and how the people feel about the sort of service that you're granting, given.
When was the last time you saw on television people complain about the police harassing them and harassing? We don't know. There's that. The sad thing is that.
Do you think that would have made that difference?
Yes. We the policemen have been taught now about people's human rights.
So Stanley asked him a question about the response to crime and because he's always around the place boasting about he's giving the police vehicles. And his response to that is that when last you see people complain about they've been harassed by the police. You see, let me address a couple things here. First of all, this idea that Philip Pierre, whenever he's challenged and whenever he's able to account on his response to crime, the first thing he comes and says is, I gave the police 26 vehicles, or we've hired 100 recruits. Every single year. Hear me. Every single year. Under every single government, police are given vehicles. Every single year. Because every single year, vehicles are depreciated. If they are amortized for 5 years or 10 years, I'm not sure how many in the police force, let's say 5 years. If they're amortized for 5 years and they're depreciated and they're taken out of stock. So every year, vehicles are replaced. Every year, whichever government comes in, vehicles are replaced. They are given vehicles. Every single year. Every single year, we see graduation for police recruits. This is nothing new. It happens every single year and every single government. This is not any achievement to boast about as a response to crime. This is a normal police operations. You have a factory, you have a piece of equipment, it's amortized over a period, it's taken out of thing, and you replace it with a new piece of equipment. Then that's not no achievement. That is not an achievement. People leave the force, they retire, you replace them with recruits. That is not an achievement. That is not a response to crime. And folks, I know you want to get to the Panama issue. I will get to that. But I need to go and dissect. Because we need to listen to this Prime Minister, because words matter. Words matter. And he needs to be challenged on the crappy spews and insult our intelligence as nations. A country of 2 Nobel laureates.
We always have been talking about the way to approach people, the training they have received. You know, the police training vote was 0. The training they have received. When last you saw on television? You had 8 years. The police come and they raid, and the police do many raids. They raid almost every day they raid. But they do it, they treat people with respect. And this one that even when I spoke, that was one of my first statements, treat people with respect.
Prime Minister, we're in September. We are at 65 murders for the year. The highest was last year under your watch at 75. We are in September and we are at 65 murders for the year. And you're not even counting the people who died after they've been shot 2 weeks after in hospital. You're not even counting them. So you're a lot higher than that. But let's say the official count is 65. We are in September. Now, I know you said the Europe is waking up every day and hoping that more people die. Nothing could be further from the truth. Because these people are our family. They are our siblings. They are our friends. They're not aliens. They belong to us. So that nonsense you speak about people in Europe is waking up praying for death. That is far from the truth. We bleed, we hurt. When people kill, they don't care if we flub or UW or Labour. We are at 65 murders in September. We are on trend to pass your last year's record of 75. And you come and talk about the police and human rights. You are seen as soft on crime. The first thing you came and do as a matter of priority was expunge COVID records. People remember you when you're in opposition, when you're breaking the COVID laws, saying people are they're frustrated. That was your exact word. They are frustrated. We see what you did with Christopher Hunt. We see what you have done in Onetile. You are seen as soft on crime. And you come and talk nonsense now. But when last you see people saying, I'm thinking about the police, we had 65 murders for the year. An entire southern zone was a war zone. Since you have come in, we've had to call in the RSS 3 times in 2 years. 3 times in 2 years. When last do you remember us calling in the RSS? And you come and tell that it's some kind of achievement?
So there are many changes that took place in the police. Of course, it's work in progress. The ways have got the cases that have been solved, the murders that have been solved. There was a cold case about a person who got killed, a girl got killed in Sufren. Remember that was solved. So, but the thing is with the police, as people say about the government, our PR is bad. Doesn't mean about us, our PR is bad. Things we do people.
Yeah, your PR is not the problem. Your PR is not the problem. Your leadership is the problem. No amount of PR can make up for horrible leadership. None. No amount of PR can make up for a failed government. You cannot make, you can put lipstick on a pig all you want. It will not look good. No amount of PR in the world can make up for your failure as a prime minister and this government.
And it's not the press's duty to be PR for you. I understand that. But the police have done, there are many, and to make it better, we are changing the conditions under which they work. We're making them feel that that their job is something that we appreciate. If you saw the police that goes to the police station, you wouldn't want to be there. We are doing these very small things, but there's a lot of work to be done. A lot more to be done. But I can tell you, during this year, there's going to be an intense level of training, more training for the police, more training in observance of people's rights, the way you treat people. But
okay, folks, enough of Philip here for now. We're going to come back to him, but enough of him for now. Let's go to that Panama situation. Let's go to this Panama situation. And nobody else can break it down like the discussion that happened on Timothy Polio's show, Newspin, with Alan Chassie. I'm going to go to that discussion and we're gonna analyze, just as we analyze this, we're gonna dissect it. We're gonna do, according to Norbert, an analysis of the paralysis. We're gonna dissect it. So stay with me. It's 9:20. We had over 700 views. We are going to break it down. That was an excellent interview, but I want us to analyze it piece by piece. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. Stick with me. Go and grab a glass of wine while I get this up. Somebody say they need a drink. Go get a glass of wine and come right back. Let me get this ready and set up for you.
And those funds going to Dr. Kenny is made in the island. Is Kimani on your spin?
No, I can't replace it.
All right. What necessitated or necessitates your presence here this afternoon is a statement that was made in the island's parliament yesterday during a special sitting of the House of Assembly by Dr. Kenny Anthony. So we will be hearing from Dr. Kenny Anthony and we'll be getting a response from you. That's with regard to funds and those funds ending up in a particular account in Panama and those funds going to OECC.
In 2014, I went to Taiwan.
Listen to Kenny Anthony, okay, guys? Stick with me. Don't go. I know some of you go to sleep at 9:30. I normally see the numbers drop at 9:30. Stay up, stay with me.
When I negotiated with them, with the Export-Import Bank, Mr. Speaker, and proceeded to ask for the first drawdown on the loan to begin to finance the hospital, Mr. Speaker, I requested that the money be routed to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank for onward transmission to the consolidated fund here in St.Lucia. Because you see, Mr. Speaker, you have to handle loan funds with integrity. Don't let your hands get on it.
You have to handle loan funds with integrity. Don't let your hands get on it. You have to handle loan funds with integrity. Don't let your hands get on it. So when a bank sends money to the contractor, how is your hands getting on it? What is the integrity coming at play here? When you go to a bank, when you go to Bank of St.Lucia or First National Bank to get a mortgage, and the quantity surveyor does the estimates, and I forget the terminology, they assess the work done and so on. And they decide, okay, the contractor puts in an invoice for $200,000. Okay, there's $200,000 worth of work. They draw down on your loan at the bank, and the bank pays the contractor. Where are your hands getting in the money? Where are your hands getting in the money? Where is the integrity at play here? Because this is exactly what happened. But again, the innuendo of the failed 27-year parliamentarian of Beaufort South. Listen to this.
But yet, don't touch it. We requested, when I served as Minister of Finance, that the money goes to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the account number 0210836695, name of bank, Federal Reserve Bank of New York, New York, New York, etc., for onward transmission to the government of St. Lucia. And I want to tell you, at its account at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, that's where it was routed. In comes the leader of the opposition as Minister it becomes Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. In comes the leader of the opposition as Minister it becomes Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. In comes. You know what he does, Mr. Speaker? You know what he does, Mr. Speaker? And I'm talking about the management of loan proceeds. And I'm warning this government, don't follow that example. Do you know that
Up to now, he has not said what was wrong. Up to now, he has not said what was wrong. Okay, the government has come in. They did not follow what you did. They don't have to follow what you did. But up to now, he has not said what was wrong. He's just throwing the corn out there for the little Labour Party chickens, the little chickens to run it.
promptly proceed to draw down the balance of the loan which I had negotiated with the Taiwanese to complete the hospital. But you know what they do? They diverted the money, the balance of the money, to the overseas engineering and construction company, this same OCC.
What he does not tell you, you see how dishonest Kenny Anthony is? And Kenny Anthony is somebody I had a lot of respect for, because I had supported the Labour Party. I've been in the Labour Party camp. Kenny Anthony is somebody I had a lot of regard for, like I said. But you see how dishonest and disgusting this man is? I have no respect for Kenny Anthony. Zero respect for Kenny Anthony. Whatever regard I had for him, I perceived, okay, he's older now, he's on his way out. Let's give him the respect as a statesman. None.
The balance of the money to the overseas engineering and construction company. This said,
what he does not tell you is that this overseas company is a Taiwanese company. So the loan was given to us by the Taiwanese through a Taiwanese bank, Taiwanese contractor.
OCC. In other words, the money is no longer going directly to the central bank and onto the consolidated fund head.
But why does it need to go through the ECCB and the consolidated fund? Why does it need to do that? It does not need to do that. That may have been what you did, but it does not need to do that.
It is going directly to the bank account of the OCC.
Yes, because they're the contractor,
So
ding dong.
Yes,
because they are the contractor, ding dong. They have to get paid. It didn't go in Galen Chasney pocket. It didn't go in Guy Joseph pocket. It had went to the contractor, ding dong, because they have to get paid, ding dong.
Not having any control over funds that are supposed to be in the consolidated fund.
It has to be paid to the contractor. Why does it have to go in the consolidated fund? The consolidated fund is a dark hole, a bottomless hole. It went to the contractor and going in Alan Chasney's pocket. It went from the Taiwanese bank to the Taiwanese contractor. It did not go in Alan Chasney's pocket. It didn't go in Guy Joseph hand and Guy Joseph wrote a check to Panama. It went from the Taiwanese bank to the Taiwanese contractor as per the loan and the contract with the contractor. What is wrong with that?
Former St. Lucia Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony speaking in Parliament yesterday. Mr. Alan Chasney, what really transpired there? So, first of all, when we came into government and we entered into negotiations with the Taiwanese, and we expanded the program in which the Taiwanese were going to lend us money. So we already had, Kenny had negotiated a $20 million US loan
of which 10 million had already been drawn down. There was 10 million remaining.
That loan was for what?
For St. Jude's.
Okay.
We then negotiated an additional $30 million or $20 million for the completion of St. Jude's. We also negotiated 110 million US dollars for the HIA airport. And we also negotiated $43 million for road developments in St. Lucia. OECC, or the government of Taiwan, has 50% shares in OECC. And so the exit.
Understand. So the contractors, the government of Taiwan, has 50% shares in the construction company. The government of Taiwan gave us the loan. They have 50% shares in the contractors. And folks, this is not anything new. Okay? Just let us take a walk down memory lane. The Taiwanese funded the Dame Paulette Louise School. Their contractors built the Dame Paulette Louise School. The Chinese, back when we had diplomatic relationships with China, they funded the stadium in Viewport where the St. Jude's patients are now housed. They built it. That is not anything new. A lot of the times, the funding, the loan funding is tied with using their own contractors. That ain't nothing new. Okay? So just take a walk down memory lane.
Bank, the bank, the development bank arm of the Taiwanese government, and the OECC, the construction company, actually act exactly the same way as the Caribbean Development Bank. Exim Bank assesses the viability.
Listen to this.
The construction company, 50% shares in OECC. And so the Exim Bank, the development bank arm of the Taiwanese government, and the OECC, the construction company, actually act exactly the same way as the Caribbean Development Bank.
So the Exim Bank is the equivalent, is the development bank, is the equivalent of the CDB, the Caribbean Development Bank. So when they actually assess a project and they pay upon the assessment. Understand, I want you to understand the Exim Bank in Taiwan, government owned, the same way, the equivalent of the CDB, the Caribbean Development Bank. Understand, écoutez bien.
The development bank arm of the Taiwanese government, and the OECC, the construction company, actually act exactly the same way as the Caribbean Development Bank. Exim Bank assesses the viability of the loan and does all the contract negotiations, and then OECC becomes the executing agency. And I have to say to you,
just like CDB. So if CDB is giving a loan, for, let's say, a cruise ship port, let's say, they will source the contractor that has the capacity and capability of doing that. So the Exim Bank operates the same way. They're Taiwan's equivalent, they're the development bank, they're equivalent. So the same thing happens here.
Tim, in the selection of OECC, I was very, very, very heartened. And if you go back and listen to my speeches at the time, that given the experience of OECC, not only in St. Vincent, but in Guatemala, in Honduras, in Haiti, in Latin America, and in other parts of the world, to bring that kind of expertise to our shores, I was very, very excited by that.
So in other words, Alan Chasney is saying, this is not a fly-by-night little contractor from Taiwan. This is a legitimate contractor that has done work all over the Caribbean and all over the world. They have half of their shares are owned by the government of Taiwan. This is not a fly-by-night entity. This is not a fly-by-night little cabaway contractor. This is a legitimate contractor.
I was also happy because it became a second pair of eyes and ears. So that means that the execution and the spending of the monies, they also had to certify the works. So you would have the ministry that was responsible here, whether it's infrastructure or economic development or health, certifying that the works were completed. And then you would have OECC certifying that the works were completed. And then you had the Exim Bank paying the money. So by OECC managing all of those particular projects, nothing extraordinary was done. So monies were transferred.
So there are different levels of certifying the projects. So it's not Guy Joseph certifying the project as the Labour Party would like us to believe. It's not Alan Shastney certifying the project. It's not a local contractor certifying the project. There are multiple layers of contracting, of certifying the project before the bank pays the contractor.
To OECC. OECC was established in 1998. Their headquarters is in Panama. CDB's headquarters are in Barbados. So when monies from donor agencies are brought to be expended in St.Lucia, let's take the Millennium Highway, that's currently going on, right? Monies were sent in by the British to CDB. CDB now is paying Cal Williams directly. Money is not going to the consolidated fund.
Listen to this again. Listen to this again. I want you all to be clear, because this is the hypocrisy of the Labour Party. This is the hypocrisy of the Labour Party. So the same thing is happening with their projects. The same thing. It's not going to the consolidated funds. CDB is disbursing directly to the contractor. It's not going for the consolidated funds. But they have an issue with it because they have to deflect and try to create some perception of corruption, because they did it to win an election and they figure they can do it again to stay into government. Listen to this again.
Sent in by the British to CDB. CDB now is paying Cal Williams directly. Money is not going to the consolidated fund. The reason why, and I think that that's what's causing the comparison, is where Kenny's speaking about the first drawdown of the loan came through the Eastern Caribbean Bank and into the consolidated fund here, was because the executing agency at the time for the project was the PMU, the project management unit in the Ministry of Finance. So they were the ones paying the monies.
But wouldn't it have been the proper thing to do to have the money go through the consolidated fund
I think
for checks and balances?
There is no less checks and balances.
Exactly. There's no
The issue has been a lot of persons, organizations who want to make contributions into St. Lucia. When it goes into the consolidated account, it becomes part of the daily cash flow. And therefore, there's many examples where projects have been delayed because monies were already put in, but the government has spent the money on something else and the government's cash flow is low at the time. So
okay, so folks, let me explain for you who don't understand what he means by that, about the government's cash flow once it goes to the consolidated funds. And I've worked at a bank, so I can tell you. The government operates from revenues and expenses. If they get money from taxes, they get money from loans, whatever, and they disburse money to contractors, to pay civil servants, to pay all of that. A lot of times, the government's accounts are in the red, in minus. In fact, most of the time. I work at a bank and I can tell you. Most of the time. So let's say they may be, let's say the accounts, I'm just trying to put it in very simple terms for some people to understand. Let's say the accounts are overdrawn by $100 million. Let's say the accounts are overdrawn by $100 million. And they have a number of payables that are people who they owe, waiting to be paid. So they may have all sorts of things. People waiting to give tax returns. They may have contractors. They may have all kinds of people waiting. You know, sometimes you submit an invoice to the government and you're waiting 3 months to get paid or whatever. So there's a line of people waiting to get paid. But they cannot get paid because they have overdrawn up to the point where the bank says, you know what, this is it. So they're juggling their cash flow. And a lot of business, people who own businesses understand what I'm saying there. They're juggling their cash flow. They know they have money coming in, they have money to go out, and so on. So they are at the point where they cannot pay anything more. The bank is not going to bounce a check, but they're at that point where they have to manage the cash flow. So there's a whole line of people waiting, contractors waiting for 3 months to get paid. They get a check from the Exim Bank. They get a check for Exim Bank to pay the contractor. It comes to the consolidated fund. The overdraft on the bank account swallows the whole thing up. Swallows, because it's overdrawn. It swallows the whole thing up. In the meantime, you have 200 people waiting to get paid from the government. who are in line. So as soon as the first opportunity where they can get paid, although that money was not intended for them, but was merely supposed to go to the contractor, but all the little other small contracts and invoices that are waiting, they get paid because they have been waiting in line. Meanwhile, the contractor who that money was intending to go to had to wait months for another check from somebody else to come in before they can get paid. That is the problem with the consolidated fund. That is the problem. The government is juggling its cash flow, and sometimes a check is intended for you. It goes in the consolidated fund. You don't receive it. You have to wait months because there are endless people whose things are in there. Although it was intended for you, but there are so many other people waiting to get paid that you then have to wait because the money wasn't intended to pay you, had to go to pay them. And we know the government juggles their cash flow. They juggle their cash flow because how many of you are waiting for your tax returns for years? The government cannot pay you. You know why they can't pay you? They're juggling their cash flow. You have paid them taxes. You have paid them more taxes than you were supposed to pay. But years they're not paying you. You know why? Because they are juggling their cash flow. And that's what happens when money goes into the consolidated fund. You all understand? Do you all understand?
Is low at the time. So I want to say that there is zero difference in the checks and balances. All of the entities in St.Lucia that have to certify the works that were done and how much was paid for was done. OECC did the same thing. The Exim Bank did the same thing. And I want to say that the government of Taiwan regularly audits OECC. So this suggestion...
So the government of Taiwan regularly audits the contractors that they own half of the shares for. The ones that were contracted to do the work on St. Jude's. The ones that the Labour Party is accusing of some cocoa macaquerie. The government of Taiwan regularly audits them.
That somehow, by putting the money there, that the money becomes flexible, meaning that it is somebody's discretion as to how they want to spend the money. The money is earmarked specifically under the rules of the contract and the contract with the contractor as to what they're going to be spending the money on. And before they spend the money, they have to submit all of their monies. So this is a normal practice. In no ways should anybody be alarmed or concerned that monies are going to go awry. And I think it's shameful that a former prime minister, and then when I heard the prime minister today on a show, and what he said, where he said, well, he's only making the comparison to be how the money was originally drawn down, which I've explained because PMU was the executing agency, and how it is being done now. But the questions that are coming up, he has not done any research. You would have thought that the prime minister and the minister of finance, in putting out something in which people would easily want to interpret it in a wrong way, that you would be careful. And more importantly, when the partner that we're speaking of is a government, it's the government of Taiwan. This is their entity. As I said to you, they're 50% shareholders, right? And that there's a process in place to help expedite the development of an execution of projects. So let's look at an example. The OECC right now is doing work in St.Lucia at HI Airport, the tower. Mm-hmm. Okay, where are the monies being sent to? This government is in office. Where's the money being sent to? And who's paying the money?
So where exactly is the money?
Going to Panama, but it's not really Panama. It's just any address. It's a Panamanian address for their headquarters. So that's where...
You see the hypocrisy of this Labour Party, guys? You see the hypocrisy? You see the hypocrisy and you see the lies they tell? Do you see the lies the Labour Party tells? Listen to this again.
Mm-hmm. Okay, where are the monies being sent to? This government is in office. And more importantly, when the partner that we're speaking of is a government, it's the government of Taiwan. This is their entity. As I said to you, they're 50% shareholders, right? And that there's a process in place to help expedite the development of and the execution of the projects. So let's look at an example. The OECC right now is doing work in St.Lucia at HI Airport, the tower. Okay, where are the monies being sent to? This government is in office. Where is the money being sent to? And who's paying the money?
So where exactly is the money?
Going to Panama, but it's not really Panama. It's just any address. It's a Panamanian address for their headquarters. So that's where their bank accounts are. That's where the money goes. And then they now transmit that money to St. Lucia based on the approved certificates of the government of St. Lucia and also their contractors.
You see the hypocrisy of this Labour Party? If the same thing obtains with the here on Minerva Airport, what's going on now? A loan from Taiwan, same OECC, same way they have subcontractors because they have local subcontractors who do the work, just like St. Jude's. Same thing. The money goes from the Exim Bank to OECC. Once the work is assessed, quantified, etc. Once the money is received by OECC, then the subcontractors get paid for it, the local subcontractors. Same thing. But they're out in Parliament and in their talk shows, and Philippe all Owen standing wherever he is, trying to feign outrage for something that they do as well. That there's nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong on either side. That is normal, that is standard, and there's nothing wrong in that. There is no fraud in that. You're talking about the government of Taiwan. The government of Taiwan, their developmental bank, Exim Bank, their contracting company. And you are accusing them of fraud. You are accusing them of corruption to the extent they have to come and demurrate you. But let's go on.
It's also being suggested as a result of this method that was utilized to conduct the transaction that somebody got some kind of commission. Again, I have not heard that specifically. I don't know how anybody would want to prove anything like that. I think it's an irresponsible statement to make, and it makes certain allegations against OECC. So what are you saying, that the government of Taiwan sent money to OECC and that OECC then paid money to somebody? Taiwan has very, very strict corruption laws. They cannot give monies to political parties. They cannot. It's completely illegal. And this is a government entity that they're making these allegations. This is a damning statement, and particularly coming from a former Minister of Finance and not being denied, I think, in any way by the Prime Minister today, is irresponsible. And again, I think it's putting into disrepute the name of St. Lucia and certainly the names of OECC and Taiwan. And I stand by it that my government, and I know of nobody who ever received a commission. I'm not aware of any contract that caused a commission to be paid to anyone for anything other than a service that was being provided. And so I don't want in any way for the listeners to believe I'm trying to simplify the process or to understate what has transpired, but these are false allegations. And hopefully later in the show, we can speak to why we think that they're making these kinds of allegations. But I certainly want to deal with this issue up front. I don't want to have any he say, that say, or tit for tat. I'm here to accurately respond to these very damning allegations that have been made, that clearly any normal thinking person would construe that there was something wrong. But I want to say there was nothing done wrong. Are those allegations, or it is a case where something is being dangled and then people can form their own opinions and then people can speculate on it?
And yes, Tim, that's exactly what it is. That is exactly what the Labour Party does. And I want to ask St. Lucians, I want St. Lucians to be on guard and to stand against this nonsense that the Labour Party does. that they used to win the election, to confuse the electorate, to win the election, and they are hoping that they can use it again to distract from their failures in office. They are hoping to use it again so that they can win another term. That they have Christopher Hunt. Remember that voice note that was leaked that Christopher Hunt said? De-emphasize Chasney and Guy Joseph enough. So paint them as corrupt. Create a narrative. Make people believe that Chasney, who was with Barbados and Bahamas trying to get us vaccines, that the procurement ended up in one of his family's pockets. Make them really Pajoa letter. Just throw shit out there. Throw things out there. Throw things out there and hope something stick. That's the Labour Party tactics for you. And it worked in 2021. And they're hoping that they can do the same to make it work this time. So don't focus on their dismal performance in office. Don't focus on their failure in office. Don't focus on the high cost of goods. Don't focus on the 2.5% service charge that is a compounding tax. By the time it is compounded at every step of the process, you will be paying about 20% tax. Don't worry about the Prime Minister will tell you it's not on food. But of course, it's on all the inputs for food and the service. So KFC had to come out and issue a statement. Forget the fact that the Philippines, despite the fact that yes, there is inflation, there is global inflation, but the fact is that Philippines has created further local inflation by refusing to reduce the gas tax, which then increased the transportation tax, refusing to subsidize further the cost of flour that caused the price of bread to go sky high, and now impose a new 2.5% compounding tax. So don't focus on those things. Don't focus on the poor state of healthcare. Don't focus on the fact that OKU is in a mess, and their CEO has left, their legal officer has left, the senior HR manager has left, all their senior staff has left. The director of administration has left. Don't focus on OKE, on the fact they don't have medicine. Don't focus on the fact that the staff there are frustrated. Don't focus on the fact that St. Jude's they are taking $200 million to restore a how many year old chicken coop. Don't focus on the 65 murders to date, trending to be the highest. Don't focus on any of those things. Let's throw things out. Let's just throw things out. Let's throw things out. Let's throw things out. The idiots bought it in 2021. The idiots bought it. Let's just throw it out. Guarantee we'll get the same result. Just throw it out. Don't care if we jeopardize our diplomatic relationship with Taiwan. Let's just throw things out because we know they're going to the little chicken's going to run again. Panama, Panama. I got money in Panama, 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 Panama.
Well, I can see that the strategy of Richard Frederick, which I call the master of half-truths. So let's look at remember the example where...
Shas, you are too kind. You are too kind. Richard Frederick is not a master of half-truths. Richard Frederick is a damn liar. Richard Frederick is a damn liar because a half-truth is a lie. A half-truth is a lie. A half-truth intending to deceive people. So you tell part of the story, but you leave out the part that will paint a completely different picture of the story. So you tell half of the story, which leaves people to be deceived. That is a lie. That is a lie. So Shas, I would like you to stop using the term half-truth. It is a blatant lie.
He said that we moved the roundabout at Rodney Bay to the new location so that a land could be acquired from my father. And he left it there. Now everybody's going to think, wait, what? The Prime Minister is helping out his family and this and that. Now, when you finish the story, is that the Ministry of Infrastructure asked that the roundabout be moved from where it was going to go, which was by MJI, to move to where the what do you call it, the pool is at La Trette Road, and that the amount of land that was acquired in total was 24,000 square feet. And of that 24,000 square feet, 400 square feet came from my father. 400. and that my father gave the 400 square feet for free. Now,
do you remember that show? I remember that show when UWP was in power and Labour Party was in opposition. Richard Frederick came on his show and he made people believe that Alan Chasney moved the roundabout to Larry Trett because his father owned a piece of land there, and gave people the impression that the government of St. Lucia paid Michael Chasney this big payout for the land that they had to acquire to build a roundabout. I remember that show very well. He gave people the impression that Alan Chasney did this to facilitate his father, only to find out that there's only 400 square feet of land, and Michael Chasney gave it. He didn't sell it for $1. He didn't sell it for 25 cents. He gave it to the people of St. Lucia. But that is how dirty, deceitful Richard Frederick is.
how you're going to interpret what took place will be very differently when you have the whole story. So again, now, when you put out a half-truth that monies originally came in and went into the consolidated fund, and that now those same new monies are going through Panama, and you don't provide the full explanation,
Exactly.
is that the monies went into the consolidated fund because the executing agency at the time was the government of St. Lucia. And that when we now expanded the amount of monies we were going to borrow from the Taiwanese, and we brought in a new entity called OECC, proven track record, half owned by the government of Taiwan, that they now became the executing agency.
What are the implications of this in terms of relations between St. Lucia and Taiwan? Because somewhere Taiwan is caught in this particular political drama.
And since this interview, and that was Shas on Newspin last week, I think it was last week Thursday. Since then, since that interview, the government of Taiwan has had to issue a statement to call the St. Lucia Labour Party government of St. Lucia liars. Isn't it a shame? Our diplomatic allies who do so much for St. Lucia. We have hundreds of students on scholarships in Taiwan now. They do so much with agriculture, fishing, all kinds of things. Loans, they are friendly government, giving us loans at very low interest rates. Give Jack his jacket. Taiwan has been a good friend of St. Lucia, a good diplomatic ally. And for this government to be that desperate to score cheap political points, to jeopardize our relationship with Taiwan, just to go after Alan Shasty and Guy Joseph. Isn't that a shame? I am embarrassed as a St. Lucian. I am embarrassed for my government. I am embarrassed that the government of Taiwan had to issue a statement through the government-owned state media in Taiwan to demurti this Labour Party government. More hot. More hot.
You hope that the government was mindful of that when they first made the statements. Now, that's not to say that if something was wrong, that the government should not bring it up. They have every right to do that, and I certainly would never take any offense to that. But in something that is so easily researched as to why it was being done the way it was being done, and whether in fact that's a common practice, whether we were setting precedent, we were not. Many projects in St. Lucia, many. In fact, I would dare to say that the Saudi Arabian loan, I'm not so sure it's going to go through the consolidated fund. I don't know. Already we've seen that it's not going out to tender, because in the House today, it was revealed that the contractor has already been, a local contractor has already been identified. Now, you and I can speculate as to who we...
Do you hear? Do you hear? So the Labour Party always think, oh, he didn't send things out to tender. Oh, he didn't send things out to tender. What? Are you doing anything different? Are you doing anything different? All of this is to distract. Guys, do you remember when the UWP was accused? Do you remember when the UWP was accused of borrowing and borrowing? Do you know that this government in 2 years in office has borrowed over $1 billion? Remember what they used to call us? What do they call it? We used to call us Madi Kwete or whatever they used to call us, and say, oh, our children, our grandchildren, our great grandchildren have to pay for it. Over $1 billion this government has borrowed since they have been in office. Over $1 billion in 2 years. They have borrowed. You remember last year when Richard Frederick went to the US and Claudius Francis announced in Parliament, oh, Richard Frederick is heading to the UN and That day alone, they came to Parliament to borrow $500 million in one sitting of the House, more than we borrowed the entire time of COVID. Remember how they accused us of borrowing the COVID? For 3 years, we had to deal with a country that had been shut down, an economy that had been shut down, no money to pay civil servants. We had to borrow during COVID. This government came in one sitting of the House and borrowed in one sitting more than the European government borrowed in 3 years of COVID. And you know that was what that distracted us? Richard Frederick in the UN. Richard Frederick getting a visa to go in the UN. We so easily distracted. We have missed them. We missed what this government is doing because they are masters at deflection. They are masters at deflection. They are masters at flashing mirrors. They are masters. They know how to shift our focus away from the real issues and just throw stuff out to us. Throw it out. And the chickens run. The chickens run.
I think that local contractor is. Was it put out to tender? Now, again, I don't want to get into comparisons, but the fact is that you're making some very serious allegations that are easily refutable. And the question becomes, why? You have to know that this is going to damage the reputation of anybody you're making these allegations towards. And I just think I sit and I'm baffled as to what this government's intention is.
Earlier on, you said that later on you hope to get an opportunity to at least hazard a guess as to why this is being played out. What was the reason, you think? Do you think there's just too much politics in everything that happens in this country? Because I think so.
Look, I think there is always politics in everything. And you choose to use the politics when you want to change the narrative. So if you're not happy with what the discussion currently is, then you find a way to change the narrative. So, it's sports persons out there will know the term. Sometimes the best defense is an offense. So all of us have been coming out and making these allegations, the issues of the cost of living, the issues of crime, the issues of the state of healthcare in our country, the issues with what's going on with the roads, the issues with allegations of corruption onto this government. These are not the things that this government wants to speak about. The 2.5% implementation was an ill thought of or an ill-advised decision. And now that they're implementing it, people are revolting because businesses are going to close.
Yep, just as they did when
the price of living for people is going up.
Businesses are going to. It's inevitable. It's the same thing that happened when they implemented VAT to 15%. Businesses closed down, especially in the South. It's inevitable. People are going to lose their jobs. Businesses are going to close and people are going to lose their jobs. On top of that, the cost of living is sky high. And this government brought it up. Folks, tie your waist. Tie your waist. John Compton used to say, Lucians, watch your bread. John Compton used to say, Lucians, watch your bread. I think in 2021, we didn't watch our bread. We did not watch our bread. We were one to watch our bread, but we were also fooled. Not me, but a lot of you were fooled. That's why we have this government. You need to tie your waist. It's coming. It's inevitable. Because a lot of businesses are not going to survive this new 2.5% compounding tax. And Richard Peterkin, because he's one of the privileged few, he come and say, oh, that's nothing. He come and dismiss it as nothing. That is a compounding tax. You are paying 2.5% at every level of value added to the good. If the good, it is multiple touch points for the good, you are paying 2.5% at multiple touch points, including when and plus when you purchase it. It is a compounding tax. You are paying 2.5% every time it changes hands. 2.5, another 2.5 added, another 2.5, another 2.5. It is inevitable that businesses will shut down, just like when the Labour Party implemented VAT in 2011. It's inevitable. In 2012, sorry. So people are going to be laid off. As if there is not even misery and starvation and suffering in the country. The same people who are laid off are now going to have to find money to buy the food, the goods, at an inflated price. Do you understand what is happening in our country? And we have 3 more years of this government. We have 3 more years of this government. All of this destruction in 2 years. And we have 3 more years of this government to go. Tie your waist. Tie your waist.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, we've seen what happens with Digicel, which is going to be repeated over and over again. The businesses are not going to absorb this 2.5%.
You're not.
So you already have inflation. So this is what this government is running away from. It does not want to deal with it. And then when you come now to the situation of St. Jude's, and I'm going to try to put it as simply as I possibly can. There are 3 significant documents in the timeline of St. Jude's. The Shanty King report, which was a closing report, which gives you a history of what happened between 2009 and 2016. Okay? You then have the FDL report, which was $1 million was paid for this report from a company that does work throughout the region and is one of the major contractors or engineering firms for CDB. And they went and brought a panel of almost 12 experts in their particular fields to deal with the healthcare services. And then now you have the report that was produced in 2021 by a voluntary group of people, some of them who had already made public pronouncements here in St. Lucia as to what they thought that should have been happened. So I don't want to question people's integrity, but I would say to you that's not in my mind. I don't think in anybody else's mind you can say it was a fully independent report. Those are the 3 things that you're guided by, Tim.
In just a moment, we'll give you an opportunity to explore this. But first, this exchange which occurred this morning on the Radio 100 program, What Makes You Mad, featuring Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre, and address.
Listen to this. Listen to this exchange. Listen, guys, to this exchange. So Timothy is playing a piece of the interview with Philip Pierre and St.Lucia. And listen to this. This is the most absurd thing. Listen to this.
The OACC issue.
All I'll do today is state the facts. Today, I will just state the facts. When government secures loan funding or any funding, it goes 2 ways. It goes to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, goes to our call account there, and is transferred on demand to the Consolidated Fund, or to the Bank of St. Lucia. In 2014, the Taiwanese went to Caribbean Export Income Bank and we borrowed some money. Some money came from the Caribbean Export Income Bank to our account in the ECCB for onward transmission to the government of St. Lucia. That's in 2014. I can read the agreement, so you know. In 2020, that money went direct to a company That was very simple.
So it didn't go through the Caribbean Development Bank?
No.
So
So
this is the Caribbean.
these are the facts.
How irregular is that?
Improper.
Improper. You heard this? Improper. Improper. Masters of deception, this Labour Party. Masters of deception. Improper. It's not illegal. It's not unusual. Improper. Improper is a relative term. A relative term. It's not a black and white term. So because I don't do it that way, it's not illegal. It's not wrong. It's not unusual. But because I don't do it this way, it's improper. A relative term. A subjective term. It's a term of opinion. A term of opinion rather than fact. But that is what the Labour Party does. So because they don't do it that way, there's nothing wrong. They too do it with the Heronor International Airport loan and funds. They do the equivalent where the Caribbean Development Bank pays contractors directly, but they use the term improper. You see how deceptive this Labour Party is? Masters of deception.
Now, as to the motive, I don't know.
Why is that being raised only now?
Because right now, we've got in the discussion of funding for St. Jude's.
But something as irregular as that, Mr. Prime Minister, if that comes to mind, shouldn't that be brought into the public space?
It's important in the public space. But be careful what I say. I have to be careful what I say.
Listen to this again. Listen to this.
Because right now, we've got in the discussion of funding for St. Jude's.
But something as irregular as that, Mr. Prime Minister, if that comes to mind, shouldn't that be brought into the public space?
It's important in the public space. But be careful what I say. I have to be careful what I say.
But have you requested an explanation from those involved in this?
And he's saying all of that. He has to be careful what he says. He has to be careful what he says. If you are telling the truth and you're making such a damning allegation, jeopardizing and jeopardizing our relationship, our diplomatic relationship with one of our strongest allies, our most generous, our kindest ally, bringing them into disrepute. Shouldn't you have all the facts, Philip here? Shouldn't you have all the facts? Talking about you have to be careful what you say. And you see them smelling with standing looking like a Zandoli.
But something as irregular as that, Mr. Prime Minister, if that comes to mind, shouldn't that be brought into the public space?
It's important in the public space. But be careful what I say. I have to be careful what I say.
But have you requested an explanation from those involved in this?
I rather hold my peace for that and not for now, because you don't want to just say things about people. All you can say is what you saw, and let the speculation.
Even there may be, but you see, if we don't get to
listen to this again.
You don't want to just say things about people.
You don't want to just say things about people. You've said it. You've said enough to create the perception of corruption. You and Kenny Sanhot have said enough to create the perception of corruption. And then you have Richard running on his show last week, Thursday. You have said enough. You have thrown enough corn to create a perception of corruption. But now you have to be careful what you say, because you don't have the facts. And now that Stanley is challenging you to show the facts, you have to all of a sudden now you want to be quote unquote be careful what you say. You see how disgusting this Prime Minister is? You see how dirty and deceptive and deceitful and rotten and liar and dishonest this Philippian is? They need to be nailed to the cross for this. They need to be nailed to the cross for this. Philippian is another one who goes around playing spies and a good guy. Nonsense. Absolute hogwash. No man with integrity, with any character, no man who had any iota of integrity would do this. None. Philippe has proven that he's no better than the rest of them. He and all of the rest of them can throw. He is just as dishonest and deceptive as the rest of them.
I'd rather hold my peace for that and not for now, because you don't want to just say things about people. All you can say is what you saw, and let the speculation.
Even there may be, but you see, if we don't get to the bottom of it, there may be an innocent explanation.
Fine.
Let the speculation. Let the speculation. You see, he can't even help himself. So throw a little bit out there. Throw enough out there to make the labor hacks run with it. Panama. Throw enough. I can't prove anything. Just throw it out. Somebody get a commission. Throw it out. We can't prove it. We can't call any names. We can't do anything. Just throw it out and let people speculate, because that's exactly what they did in the last election. They threw stuff out and people speculated. Typical Labour Party playbook. Typical Labour Party playbook.
And exactly.
Yes.
We're going to feel it. And ask the officials in the finance about it. You'll have to come and see. But
Are you not understanding what he's saying? Are you not understanding what he's saying? Because he's I can't understand what the heck he's saying. Are you understanding? When people are lying, they chew their words. The man making like a chewing gum, a soup, the words in his mouth. What is he saying? I'm going to play it again for you today. What is he saying? Because I'm not understanding what he's saying. He's lying so much that he can't even speak properly and enunciate his words. He's lying so much. Tell me if you don't understand what he's saying there.
But people, all you can say is what you saw, and let the speculation.
Even there may be, but you see, if we don't get to the bottom of it, there may be an innocent explanation for it.
And exactly.
Yes.
We're going to feel it. And ask the officials in the finance about it. You'll have to come and see. But that's a fact. That's what the document says.
That's a fact. That's what the document says. But that's a fact. So listen to this again. Stanley's asking him about a supposed commission that they claim was paid. Stanley's asking him about a commission that they claim was paid. He's telling Stanley that's a fact. That's what the document says. But listen to his answer. Listen to his response after that. Listen to it.
Be careful what I say. I have to be careful what I say.
But have you requested an explanation from those involved in this?
I'd rather hold my peace for that and not for now, because you don't want to just say things about people. All you can say is what you saw, and let the speculation.
Even there may be, but you see, if we don't get to the bottom of it, there may be an innocent explanation for it.
And exactly.
Yes.
So we're going to feel it. And ask the officials in the finance about it. You'll have to come and see. But that's a fact. That's what the document says.
That's what the document says. The fact. That's what the document says.
The explanation, you might know it, but that's what the document says.
That's what the document says.
2014, it went to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and then St.Lucia. 2020 went direct to an account. Fact. Why? I'm not speculating. Fact, a commission was paid in the last transaction.
But isn't that normal, is it?
It wasn't paid in the first.
And the commission was paid to do.
That's what is being found out.
That is what is being found out.
Prime Minister Philip GPS speaking on the Radio 100 program earlier.
That's what's being found out. That's what's being found out. So he has no proof, no evidence, nothing, no proof that he can then throw. He can then throw. He can then throw out and hope that it will stick. Because they did that in the last election. They take their budget and it stuck. And they figure St.Lucia is dotish enough to buy it a second time. They think St.Lucia is dotish enough that as hard as life is, as hard as their life is, as much as they're catching their royals, but they could be so easily distracted by mere allegations of corruption, unsubstantiated, without an iota of proof. So much so that the government of Taiwan had to come and demurty them on the Taiwanese state media and say there was nothing unusual or out of order on what happened there. St. Lucians, let me tell you something. Y'all need to speak out. I'm telling you, you cannot afford to remain silent. You cannot. All St. Lucians at home and abroad. What if you can speak English, speak it. If you can speak Patois, speak it. If you can speak English and Patois together, speak it. Whatever language you can speak, whatever you can speak, you all need to speak out. Open your mouth and speak. Because this cannot be allowed to continue. If we have to see 3 more years of this, our country will be finished. Finish. If we have to see 3 more years of this, our country is done. I am asking all St. Lucians tonight to speak out and speak up against what is happening in our country. The level of hardship, the level of suffering, the poor state of healthcare, our abysmal tourism industry. Abysmal. You have Kenson Kazimi calling people 11 and 12-year-old children up on TV, cameras to give train 2 little pads, bragging about removing VAT on pads. You're removing VAT on pads, and then you put down the 2.5% compounding tax on the same parents that have to buy the pads for them. That making sense? Is that making sense? Kenson Kazimi and his government. You're bragging about removing VAT on pads, but in the meantime, you put another 2.5% on top of the misery. If I am that child's mother and I make $1,000 a month, if you take the little VAT off the little pads there for me, and you come up with 2.5% on every damn thing I have to pay for, how are you helping me? And you're taking my little girl children, parading for cameras to give them 2 little pads? You have no shame? You have no pride? You have no pride. I am a grown woman, and I will not go to come in front of no cameras to collect 2 little pads. You don't have little children doing that. You don't still have no class. You don't have no pride. You don't have no dignity. You don't have no decorum. St. Lucians, speak out. You'll have Facebook Live. You'll have WhatsApp. You'll have the talk shows. You'll have the radio. You'll have the newspapers. You'll have your neighbors. You're on the ground. You can talk to your neighbors. Talk to them. Those of you in the diaspora who have influence on the people at home. This cannot continue. It cannot continue. We need to raise our collective voices and speak out against this government. Now, I know it's late. It's after 10, and it's 10:22, and we've had over 700 viewers tonight. I want to thank every single one of you for joining me tonight. I want to thank you for taking your time out to come and listen to me. It's been a while since I had not been on. As you know, I've had surgery, and again, thank you for all your support. And I want to say a special good night to all of you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. And stay safe, St. Lucia. Stay safe, stay sweet. Let's love and protect each other. But our country is in a mess. Our country is in a mess. Have a good night, everybody.